We are on page 7 of your note packet. How many atoms? It's right in the middle. And we're just going to take a couple notes. So when we see that there's a mole of something, 1 mole of water is always equal to 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of water. Now that's talking about the compound H2O. If we were to look at that compound, that molecule of water, can we break it down? Yes, we can. If we were to break it down into its parts, we would have 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen, and that's what those subscripts tell us. Now we're going to actually cross out these 2 questions. We're not going to do them. We don't need to. And we're just going to move down the page a little bit, and it says 1 mole of sodium chloride is equivalent to or equals 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd formula units. This is just another way to write that we have that compound of sodium chloride. Now when we put sodium chloride, that's a solid, and we put it into water, it separates into ions. And those ions are Na plus with an aqueous, and chloride ion, Cl minus aqueous. So now they're no longer bonded, they're 2 separate things. Question is, how many sodium ions are in 1 mole of sodium chloride? And we're going to set up a ratio. We have 1 mole of sodium chloride. And we already said right here that 1 mole of sodium chloride is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And it says how many sodium ions are in 1 mole of sodium chloride. When we said it separated into its ions. So if this breaks apart, we're going to end up with 1 mole of sodium ion. And we're trying to figure out how many sodiums that would be. In order to solve this, what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply. So when you cross multiply, 1 times x is 1. 1 times 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd is the same number. So x, I'm going to write over here, is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And that would be Na plus. So let's take it one step further, make it a little bit more complex. If we have a mole of calcium chloride, that's CaCl2. How many ions of calcium and how many ions of chloride would be there? Well, this is ionic, so when we put it in water, what's going to happen is we're going to end up with 1 calcium and 2 chlorides. Because we're going to break it apart into its 2 different things. So we're going to set up the same ratio for our calcium. We have 1 mole of our original, CaCl2, and in that we've got 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. And we're trying to figure out how many calciums. Now for every 1 calcium chloride, we've got 1 calcium. And that's over an x. When we cross multiply, and once again that cross multiplication is just that simple, 1 times x and 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd, we're going to end up x equaling 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd calciums. Now it's a little bit different for chlorine. We're going to set up the same ratio. However, when this calcium chloride breaks apart, how many chlorines did we end up with? We ended up with 2. So we're still starting with the same amount. That 1 mole of calcium chloride has 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd units. But this time, when that calcium chloride breaks apart, we've got 2 chlorines. So when we cross multiply, which is right here, X is going to equal twice the number. And what we do is we multiply it through. And when we multiply through, we end up with 12.04 times 10 to the 23rd chlorides. Okay, you can change that into proper scientific notation, but that's the end.